We are live. Hi.
Hello.
All right. So hopefully, we should have sound and um, that's muted. And that I don't. I feel like it's been more than a week or something because we were
What
doing
are we
them.
doing? We don't know how to do this anymore?
Yeah, I forgot. So
I just feel weird because I can't actually see much.
yes, I know there's.
We've got stuff in front of us that you guys can't actually see, which is good, but it's kind of weird.
Yes.
I'm guessing that we're good because there's not like a frowny face there. So, yeah.
Hi guys.
Hello.
So
So today
yeah, we were
we've
gonna do
got-
Surgers and
we were going to, and then we're going to expand out on the kind of like this is your mat
Mhm.
concept of embroidery.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the workspace a little bit more.
Yeah, and then we will get to Surgers maybe next week.
Yeah.
I already moved the camera, so there you go.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Yes. So hopefully, it does appear that I got us right side up this time. So your hands are down at the bottom where they're supposed to be.
Hey, Sue.
So it
Hi,
shouldn't be
Lisa.
upside down.
Yeah.
So today we thought we would share some tips about hooping. And I thought this has nothing to do with hooping, but I thought I'd give you guys all a little sneak peek at the Lucky Us pillow. So the kits are almost ready. A couple people had theirs ordered, and we did. If you requested shipping, we did mail out the couple that we could make.
So there's
Mylar.
something that we're still waiting on, but we had a little bit here. So those first couple of orders that we had got filled.
Yes.
But we are still waiting on a few of yours. So
yes, we're waiting on essentially
Mylar.
the Mylar, which is used for the
flowers.
three-dimensional flowers on here. And it really does make them sparkly.
It really does. It makes a big difference. They wouldn't look half as cute. So
So
if you're wondering, will mine look just like that?
no.
Close, but not exactly, because there are a few things. Did you really think Sarah followed all the directions?
Right. So this was what we chose to use for the backing fabric. And after I cut the backing fabric, there was quite a bit left because the instructions were written for a stripe. And so I decided to use this instead of the felt. So how about if I make the picture bigger and then you can see it a little bit, maybe. There we go. So I did use the backing fabric on here instead of the felt, and I did sub it in here. This one is like the bright green doodle, but it just seemed so much brighter than everything else.
Especially when you did
yes
this here. I don't know if clash is quite the right word, but I can see where it might not have looked great next to it.
And
where next to dark green, it probably would have balanced better.
Right.
Because the green felt is much darker than
it is.
this.
Yes.
It's very, very dark. So it would have definitely had a different contrasting.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been a good contrast instead of a holy crap contrast.
Yes. But I didn't have an embellishment kit either because they're not finished yet. We're still waiting on Mylar. So I pulled pieces from like my stash of stuff and realized that
of course we have stash.
Right. I don't have a very large Kimberbell like stuff
leathers
stash.
And different things.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of that. I'll have to add into that because like I didn't have a big enough piece of the black leather. So I used some heat transfer vinyl that we had, and I didn't have any of the gold leather, which is what you were supposed to use for. I decided that
So the original design is all gold?
It is. It's gold. It's two types of gold. So it's the gold leather and then the gold vinyl.
Okay.
And since
I think the silver looks very nice.
It's platinum.
I'm so sorry.
Right. Because it's my
Excuse me.
Since it's my pot of gold.
Pardonnez-moi, s'il vous plaît.
I thought
wow.
I'll call it platinum.
Did you want to smack my hand too? Wow. Platinum.
Right, it's platinum. So there's not
retract the clause.
Well, we don't want plain old silver in our pot of gold, right?
Evidently we don't. We were very clear on that.
It wouldn't be very profitable if it was just silver in there.
Okay.
So that's my platinum.
That's the platinum. Got it. I will not make that mistake again. Check. But I have to say, I love your addition to this. This is really cute. And I don't know if you guys can quite tell, if you can kind of see.
Yeah, you can see a little bit of
a little bit. So this is 2 layers of vinyl.
It is.
And what did you add in there?
So we have this clear vinyl that has sparkles on it. So I wanted my vase to have a little bit of shimmer in it. So I layered that underneath. And I played around with it, like, does it look better on top or on the bottom? But it still has the hue.
The hue of the green.
When you put it underneath.
Yep.
So that's what I used. So there's 2 layers. So that was probably the hardest block to cut.
Oh dear.
Around, because it was
by himself.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Should I help?
Maybe.
Keep talking.
So anyways, I did change that a little bit. So but aside from this piece here, everything that I did is in the kit. Except for this piece right here. So like I said, I did to steal that and grab that. But I did the quilting designs and did the pre-quilting before I layered everything together. So all done in the embroidery hoop. There's really 2 different quilting designs. So this one is like a kind of like a plaid. And then we have this one here, which is like the 4-leaf clovers that are in the hat. Not sure if we can get that up there. Let's turn it. There we go. So you've got that one, and then you've got the one design that's in the back. And I did order those from the Kimberbell website. So I think if I were to do it again, the couple of places that you have the little 4-leaf clover, if I were just going to buy a design, I think I would just do this one here and maybe not do the 4-leaf or the 3-leaf clover. It didn't seem, doesn't really show up that much. So if you're picking and choosing which designs to get, I would just get this one instead of getting both if you're not buying the whole kit. But Sandy asked if I order this project, will you send it out with the March? Absolutely, I can send it out with the March pillow. So the kits are for sale on the website. And then the embroidery design, there is, and I believe the link is working. They did change where they were putting stuff. But there is an embroidery design that you have to purchase from the Kimberbell website. And if you do go to our website first, we do have an affiliate link. So
we can still get credit
through there does support the shop here, which we know you guys like to do, and we appreciate
that.
So yeah, so it's mostly everything that's in the kit, all of the fabrics.
Are these the same?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, these are all from the kit. It's really interesting because they give you a single design for the hat, as well as a double hooping, and they give you this one as a single design, but this comes in as a double design, regardless of what you want to do.
So out of curiosity, could you connect to them?
Probably with a little bit of finagling. There's a little bit of extra fabric in there, and the corner pieces, like if I flip this around, you can see that
so there's not really a way to combine those 2 in the hoop.
You could do it in software maybe, but you'd have to delete some stitches. If you did it in the hoop, and your block would be too big.
I got you.
By probably a 1/2 inch. Yep. Because that part is still in the seam. So
gotcha.
But it was fun, and I did enjoy doing it. And
I apologize if you already, is this all sewing?
Yes, just these. This is done in the hoop.
Okay.
And then I did quilt them just like I did this one.
Gotcha. And the quilt patterns are Kimberbell's.
Yes.
We didn't do quilt patterns for these.
I did not. So this particular design, I'm a big fan of like starching and getting the stuff prepped. but I would definitely, you can do that to all of the fabrics except for these 5-inch squares, because this white one, this green one, and this yellow one right here, those start out to be 5-inch by 5-inch. And when I starched them, they did shrink up just a little bit. So they are just a little bit shy of being the correct size. Okay. So you want to pay attention to that. So these pieces here, so it's basically the green, the white, and this one, they were just 5-inch by 5-inch pieces. So it was definitely a little bit of a stretch to make sure that they worked. I have a little slightly thinner seams than I would like, but I did quilt it. So when it was quilted, I have a little bit of the stabilizer underneath it to make it work exactly the way that it was supposed to be. But yeah, that's that. I haven't done the borders yet, but aside from that, it's pretty much exactly. I left a little piece of me in there.
One of ours. So, not sure which one it was shedding, but one of us is.
But it was a lot of fun, and it was actually a pretty quick stitch out. I would say this one is probably the one that took the longest because of all of the little pieces. But aside from that, everything else went really, really quick.
Cool.
So this is the Lucky Us pillow kit. And again, the designs are from Kimberbell. So Pat says, I'm new here, so a different one for each month. Yes, they have different ones for each month, but I'm not sure that's exactly the question that you're asking. Kimberbell has done 2 versions like this.
So there's a Halloween version that has a witch's hat here. Mm-hmm. That is called Home is Where the Haunt Is. That is a download design from their site. And then we offered a kit here in store.
Mm-hmm. We still have a couple kits.
We still have a couple of those. But those are the only 2 that look like this, that are this size. Mm-hmm. They have complete bench pillows that are one for every month plus some extras.
Yes. And they're very
cute. There's
cute.
also the bench buddies that are either 5 by 9 or 8 by 8.
Yeah.
That are for every month. So there's lots of available pillow options depending upon what fits your fancy and what kind of room you have in your house and what kinds of things that you like. So there's definitely lots of options.
Yes.
For different things.
And so if you're super anxious about doing this and you can't wait for us, if you have any mylar at home, you can come and get your piece. It's basically a 3-inch by 6-inch piece
don't
of
need
mylar.
A whole lot, unfortunately.
That we're waiting for, yes. Which is crazy.
Unfortunately, when you're making, how many are we doing? 40 some odd kits. You need a lot more.
But that's our holdup. So we do apologize. Luckily, it's January and it's not February already. So we
got a little bit of time before that has to be finished and made and all that good stuff. But
yes,
very nice job. It is absolutely adorable. And I have to say, I think I would also swap out the fabric for the hat.
Yeah.
I think that's very cute.
I think that with the quilting designs in it, it really does make the hat look cute. So even if you did use the felt, it would be very cute. Mm-hmm. And that would hold it down well. But I didn't have enough felt. So it wasn't going to work regardless. It wasn't going to work
whichever way you want. But I think it's very cute.
But I love that
that fabric is super cute. So.
I'm sad
we used all of it.
I know, right? I was thinking as I was sewing, I'm like, why don't I have more of this in my stash?
Because we used all of it for the kits. There's none left.
Yeah, we need to.
Carolyn was funny when she was finishing the kits because we had to order another bolt, which is not exactly the same. To finish all of the kits, she was like, is there going to be any of this left over? I want some of this. And there was, and then she bought it.
Yeah.
So, yes, not much leftovers. So,
yes. Anita said, I want to make this pillow. I want the kit. Well, Anita, when Lisa is showing you how to do this hoopy hoop thing,
there'll be some little typing going on
typing
to get some show you guys how to find it.
Yes, and I'll put the link up for the pillow on there.
So today we're going to talk about hooping and some different types of hoops and some good, some bad. maybe a little ugly.
Yeah.
Hopefully not too much ugly, because nobody wants to hear about that, right? So we'll talk about some things, and maybe hopefully making somebody's life easier out there, and some tips and tricks. And we do have that one thing way up there that we could maybe talk about to help.
Oh, our hoop mat?
Yep, the hoop mat. That maybe you can disappear over there for half a second and grab that. And so we can talk about those too. I brought the different styles of hooping pieces on the side here, just so that we could talk about the pros of yeah. So as you move up in the sizes of machines, and what I say by size doesn't necessarily equal like the size of the machine. However, as you move up in hoop sizes, the machines do get bigger as well. And the 4x4 only machine is going to have this hoop attachment. So we lovingly have dubbed these male and females, so we know which one is which. So we have the male hoop attachment and we have the female hoop attachment, and that's what tells us what is what. So if you have a 5x7 machine, maximum hoop, this is what your hoops look like. And if you have the 4x4 only machine, this is what your hoops look like, and how they attach into the machine. These can be, I'm sorry?
I said, let's pull that stuff up and
let's put that baby down.
Fantastic mat underneath.
Oh, look, there's another one.
Yeah.
There was a one hiding. So what this is that wow, it's bigger than I thought. Keep moving.
There we go.
Okay,
I'm going to put that link up.
All right. So this again is the 4x4 only. And what that has is these little notches. So on the machine itself, it has these notches that this sits into. So on your embroidery arm, you would attach those two notches into that connection point on the embroidery arm. This tends to be very frustrating when people get started, is because they try to put both of them in and they're pushing constantly and they fight with it. And then lo and behold, halfway through their stitch out, it pops out and then they cry. And there's no crying in embroidery, right?
Shouldn't be.
There shouldn't be anyways. This should be fun. And everybody wants to have fun when they do this. We don't want anybody to be crying when they're doing this. So with either of these types of attachments, the trick to getting this to work is to put, and it doesn't matter which one first. I personally find the closest one first is easiest. You're going to slide it in underneath your foot, and then you're going to attach and line up the back one, meaning the closest to you first, and then rock it in place, and it will snap right in. When you go to remove it, you're going to do that in reverse. So you're going to pull that release lever and then rock it out, get the back one out, and then pull that front one out. And boom, it's going to come out. So if you don't try to push them both in together, if you roll it in and then roll it out, it will come in and out much, much easier, and you'll stop crying. So it will stay in place, and it will not pop out while you're sewing, because again, nobody wants to do that. So no crying and no popping out of the hoop while we're stitching. So hopefully that helped somebody. And if that didn't make any sense, you can come on in and we'll show you, because
we can do that.
I actually this was my first hoop. This was my 4x4 only. And here I was the smart aleck that I didn't want any help, because I knew what I was doing, right? Because we've all been there somewhere, right? You know, like, I know what I'm doing. I don't need help. So I went home, and I was that person and I am pushing and I fought with my hoop, and I sewed on that machine for a long time. I don't think I ever actually had it pop out of the machine on me, but I fought with my hoop a lot. There might have been words said that were not very kind. My hoop was not my friend by any stretch of the imagination. And I don't know, a year or so into it, I bought a different machine and I stopped sewing on that. I sew with that machine, but I no longer embroidered on that machine. And I have a slide-in hoop from now on, and that's all I ever did. Well, then I started working here, and I overheard someone telling somebody how to do that. And I was like, why didn't you guys tell me that when I bought that machine? And I was told very, very quickly, oh, I remember when you bought your machine, you very clearly told me you didn't need any help. And I went, oh, yeah, I did say that, didn't I? I did do that. So don't do that.
Don't do that.
You want to rock it in. So literally hook the first one and then roll it into place. It'll snap right in. And then there's a little release lever, pull it back and rock it out and it'll pop right back out. Life-saving information here, people. Really, really good stuff. So don't force the hoop because it'll fight you all the way home.
Yeah.
Fight you all day. So,
I do that and I still, every time I go to demo this machine, I'm like, I hope they're not actually watching me put it in and out because I still fumble with it. It's just not fluid for me. I have to try.
Fortunately, unfortunately, I don't know. I've done it so many times now.
Yeah.
I could practically do it blindfolded because I have been doing it forever. But yeah, I totally get you because it's just one of those things. This is not the best. Once it's in, it's in.
Yeah.
As long as you do it right.
Yes.
It doesn't pop back out. But if you don't get it in right, it can pop back out.
Yes.
So this little thing here.
Yeah. Yes.
It doesn't move.
It makes it so much easier because you're gonna kind of like push into your hoop.
So when you go to hoop something, I know that you guys have all done this, and you go to hoop and you're putting that in and you push and everything's sliding forward and you end up laying on the hoop to get it all staying there. Who's laid on their hoop? Right? I mean, the girls, the whole shebang, and
right?
you're laying on it. You're laying on it, right? And
sometimes my leg.
Whatever works, right? We have put everything.
Yeah.
Anything that you can grab, you put on top of a hoop.
Absolutely.
To get it to stay in position. That's what this little guy does. It is a rubber hoop mat, and it holds everything in place.
Yeah.
Not only that, you can line up let's use one that has a liner upper. Mm-hmm. You guys know what a liner upper is, right? I like to make things up.
It's your grid.
So you can actually line that right up, and then your garment can be lined up or whatever it is that you're embroidering, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
So the grid has stayed there for you as well.
Yeah, you can see that through a lot of
garments and a lot of fabrics and other things you can see right through there.
And if you can't see it through, you can definitely see it on the outside edges here.
Yep.
And so I don't know about you, but I know that everybody uses these little marks on their hoop here.
There's even patterns that tell you to do that.
So if you want to use the marks, that's fantastic, but put your template in if you have it at least once and use a Sharpie to actually
mark where center is.
Yes.
So let's hold that up a little bit, or zoom. I don't think I can reach the zoom without knocking all kinds of things over.
True.
So I'm going to hold that up. So I'm just going to turn. So can you guys see the notch? And then where the line is? There's just shy of a 1/4 inch difference. That is center, which is where the line is. Not the notch that's in plastic there, but the actual line that is on the plastic piece. That's how much difference between what's actually center and what we all think is center.
Yeah.
So when you are going to center something, quote unquote,
yes.
All right. If you use those, the top and the bottom one is much closer than the side one.
Substantially.
Yes. Where's the camera? Nope, other way. So that one is substantially closer. It's just right next to it. So up and down is much closer than the side to side ones, but it is still going to be a hair off if that is what you're using. So like what Sarah was saying, if you're using that to use for that, it does make a difference.
Yeah.
And so when you go to actually turn your crosshair on, you're like, I was right on. Why is my crosshair not lining up? Like, my needle's not where it's supposed to be. That's why.
That's why.
Okay.
That's why. Yes.
And unfortunately, that's the thing.
Yeah, and I want to just be clear. This is not a brother baby lock thing.
It is not.
This is an everybody thing. So every hoop that I have ever used has been off a little bit. It will vary a little bit.
Maybe you're
how
off.
much off, but it is definitely going to be off from your template. So, you know, we get, we don't use the templates as much now because we have fancy machines that have cameras and projectors and things like that. Right. So, our top of the line model machine doesn't even come with these because it has projectors and cameras and all of those things. But the truth is the notches on the hoop are not exactly center. And if you are trying to center based on those notches, a lot of times we have some wiggle room. But if we don't have any wiggle room, it would behoove you to have a little bit of a marking on here. And like I said, I don't know. Sometimes it's not so much the notch on the inside that's super helpful, because if your fabric is there and your hoop is there and you're going to use a mat like this, putting a little mark on the outside edge over here on your hoop may be more beneficial to you to help you get everything lined up.
Or both.
Or both, yes.
Or both. Sure, I understand.
Oh, look, Siri is trying to help.
Siri wants to help us hoop. Isn't that nice? So we didn't bring any of this over, but it's also been used if you take and put sticky on your hoop for hooping. So if you are using, and you get this in here, once you put it in here, you're kind of already screwed, right?
Yep.
So if you have your hoop set aside, and we're going to pretend I have a crosshair on there, I can line up using my template, and I've got it, and I get right where it needs to be. If I have adhesive on the back of my center piece here, I can press, and then when I pick it up, it stays in place so that when I go into my hoop, I have way too much stuff in front of me. It's going to stay in position, and that will keep everything lined up. There are some people that find a huge amount of success with that, and they just replace that adhesive after it's dead after a while. So there's many different hooping techniques that you just have to find the one that works best for you.
That's right. And that's a really good one. Just make sure, and you should always have stabilizer or something going all the way through your hoop. This is
not an example of an accurate hooping.
No, you would want to make sure that you have.
Oh yeah. I didn't use that. That one's right there. Let's use that. So in that instance, the bottom of the hoop would be out of the way.
A littler one. I brought lots over. I wasn't sure what we were gonna.
She's so prepared.
I tried. I forgot the mat.
So on the back of this, you can see this has got some width to it. It doesn't look like it from this side, but it does. So you can actually get the double-sided adhesive tape and put that right there. And I don't mean actual tape. There's embroidery stuff that we have, and we can find that for you too. And then when you line that up, you're going to use your eyeballs and then press here. And then when you go to pick that up, your fabric would go with it. And then you know you are centered in your hoop, so that when you pick this up, it would go right inside of, I'm sorry, I just got a little close.
It's okay.
My bad.
It's okay.
And then it would stay right in position there when you go to put it actually in the hoop.
Yeah.
So that's a really nice, it's way too much work for me, but I do know there are many people who use that if you struggle to keep
your
center
pieces in. That is a really, like she said, a really nice way to do that. And so since we have this in here, and I've got my hoop probably just a little bit too tight here.
Just here.
So we can talk about what happens when you get it in the hoop and what not to do. That's why I drew that giant crosshair in there.
Oh.
So we'd be able to see the distorted fabric.
Good plan. So if the fabric was stuck to this inner hoop, there'd be less shifting as you were applying it into the base.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But we're not actually stuck. So things did shift quite a bit more than they would have otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So we have some wrinkles in here, right? And so people bring in their projects to us and they say, well, my fabric
didn't work.
Right. It's wrinkly and it's wavy and I did everything that you told me to. And I always say to them, well, could you have pulled on your fabric a little bit? And they always say no.
Nope.
We know that's not true because we can see it.
You can tell us whatever you want, but we actually generally already know what you did.
Right.
We're just asking to be polite.
So I drew this really dark line just so that you could kind of see what happens. This is what people do is they grab this fabric and they do this. And when they do this, they are distorting the fabric. You can see this line is no longer straight. It's kind of wonky, right? So everybody does this because they want it to be super duper duper straight.
Because if it's tight in there, it's going to stitch exactly how I want it to, right?
Right? Because it needs to be like this.
It needs to be drum tight, right? You want to be able to hear that dong when you hit it with your fingers. But if you keep pulling, you're literally pulling, and that line, you can see it moving. But our brain is telling us that this all needs to be tight. So if I keep doing this, I'm making it better, is what your brain is telling you is going to happen. But what is actually happening is you're distorting the fabric before you've ever started.
Yep.
So what's going to happen after you've stitched?
You're going to take it out of the hoop.
And it's going to go bing,
yes,
right back to where it was before you did all of that tugging. And it's going to create a pucker.
Yes, a reverse ripple.
Reverse ripple will happen. And we don't like ripples anywhere on our body or in our fabric. Right?
No,
we've been trying to get rid of them for years. So you don't want to create them unwanted and unknown by doing that. So what you don't want to do is pull those after you've got everything in place. So how do you not do that?
Well, you can do a couple different things. If your fabric and your stabilizer are stuck together, then you have less chance of that happening.
So stuck together, do you mean like sticky?
Yes.
Do you mean like iron it on?
Yes.
Wow, what a novel concept.
Or you can use a temporary spray adhesive.
Or spray adhesive. So there's many ways that you can do that. All items can't be pressed. So you can't apply heat to everything, or you don't want to apply heat to everything, depending upon what it is that you are working on. So there's sticky, which that's pretty safe on almost everything.
Yep.
So you could put a sticky tearaway in there and stick it to there, and then you can just tear it off when you're all done. One of my favorites is a fusible no-show mesh, because I can reheat it afterwards and peel it off and then cut away the excess. But while it's stitching, it is fused, which means my fabric's not shifting.
Yep.
And that's what's going to give you that success in embroidery, because you don't want anything shifting as it's stitching.
But you do have to pay attention. You need to press, not iron, because the process of ironing can stretch your fabric, and then you aren't any further out than you were.
Yes, so, I don't like to iron, but I press all the time.
Yes, it's super important to just pay attention to what you're doing and don't distort the grain of the fabric. However you hoop, stick, fuse, peel, keeping that from stretching is the first line of defense.
Absolutely.
To avoid reverse wrinkle.
And it's the anti-aging show here, people.
We're going to reverse your wrinkles.
We're going to reverse those wrinkles right out of you. There we go. This is how we're going to do it.
A little glue goes a long way. Yeah.
So, seriously though, it is so easy. And I mean, we've all probably caught ourselves doing it. Don't do that. Because our natural indication is, I got a little pucker there. I just want to get that low guy out. Honestly, you're better off leaving it there than distorting everything. It's going to do less damage with a little bump in the corner than pulling on it and pulling everything else out of its natural position.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, depending on the types of things that you like to embroider is going to depend upon the right
My
choice.
face feels weird. I was all pulling on
yeah,
it.
will depend on the right choice of adhering your stabilizer to your fabric. So, you know, do a little bit of testing if it's a fabric that you're not sure of. You certainly don't want to either apply a temporary adhesive or heat to something that maybe is heirloomy and that you cannot replace because you don't necessarily know how that's going to react. Yeah. I know Lisa is not a big fan of using spray adhesive.
I'm not.
I've used it for
I know
years.
You
it's
use it
really
a lot.
Just
it's a matter of what kind you have, I guess, is, you know, and you take all the right precautions. I guess part of the reason that I'm I've heard so many horror stories about what people have done with it.
Yeah, you know, people can do some crazy things for sure. You know, I've certainly had my fair share of oh, this is what I did and don't do that kind of thing. But you know, again, everything in moderation. You know, the key to using some sort of a spray adhesive is to not spray anywhere near your machine. Don't spray necessarily on your hoops.
Right.
And spray in some sort of a box. Dime makes a really cool. I should get the spray tent sometime. They make like a spray shield.
Yeah.
That you can use. If you have to spray near your hoop, you can make like a shield. A shield.
Yeah, just make a to put over it.
Yeah. So
I think maybe part of my phobia, that's not the right word, but you get the concept.
Yeah.
One of my jobs when I first started working here was cleaning hoops.
Sure.
Yep. Don't like that spray adhesive.
You know, I find that a lot of the gunk on hoops isn't necessarily from spray adhesive. It's a lot of it from the sticky adhesives on the stabilizers.
Oh no, this was definitely spray adhesive that I was having to clean off. Don't do that. No, don't do that.
Yeah.
But you're right. If you build a guard so that it's actually just going where you need it in here, not around here, it would make a very big difference. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I mean,
just be smart about it.
And the easiest way to do that, I mean, if I have to put a small piece inside my hoop, I just take my small piece of fabric to my little box. I put a little spray on it. I come over and I put it in.
Don't spray here.
Yeah.
Spray there.
Away from it. And don't spray on your floor, your carpet,
I'll
your
spray into my trash can.
Yeah.
Or, you know, somewhere if I'm going to spray, I don't spray where other things are going to be hit or whatnot.
No. I have like an old sheet. So if I have to do something that is bigger, slightly larger than
to get to
fits in my little itty bitty box, I do. And I always make sure that sheet gets folded the same way. You want the sticky to be
in the same spots.
Yeah, and you want it to be on the inside.
Right.
Otherwise,
it
whatever
defeats the purpose.
Well, it's amazing what will stick to it, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Things you don't want.
I did. I had my friend. She's like, "Oh, I sprayed in my hallway." I'm like, "Yeah, how's that working for you?" She's like, "Yeah, it's not working out so great because you know." There's like everything sticks to the area around her project, and I was like, that was really silly. But you know, in the summertime, you can spray outside.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny, but I really am not. I don't like fusible no show mesh. I don't find that it heats.
Evenly.
I don't find that it sticks well to the projects that I'm using. However, I'm also not doing a lot of clothes, and that's what it's designed for. Right. And it's designed to do exactly that. It fuses, and then when you heat it up again, it unfuses so you can take it away. And since I don't do a lot of clothes,
you don't have need of that.
I don't, and so oftentimes I'm using a double. It would be that I'm using a double fusible, which I don't necessarily recommend.
Right.
Because I
and I don't disagree with that
a lot of the easy tee stuff to the backs of my fabric, and then
which is another option.
Yes. So
the idea, going back to the whole point of that, this isn't a stabilizer lesson, but the point of that is you don't want whatever you're putting in there to shift as we're stitching.
Yes.
So that's whether it be easy tea, whether it be a no-show mesh, or whether it be a spray adhesive, we want to make sure that what you're putting in there isn't going to need this because it's already stable before you put it there.
Absolutely. That's the whole goal, is to get it to be stable.
That was a very long way round road of saying that. We want whatever is in here to be very stable before we go to stitch on it.
So that we don't have to push and pull, because that distorts the grain of the fabric, which stretches out the fabric. And then
when you pop it out of the hoop, its natural inclination is to spring back to, that there's a delay there.
Yes, there is. Yes.
That's wiggy.
Right. That was like the other day. When So you get the spring back, or a lot of people hit it with water. And so you get a little bit of the shrinkage that happens. And again, that's the goal, is to avoid those things.
Right.
And obviously Lisa and I, we've both been doing this for about the same time, but we just do it slightly different.
Because what we do is slightly different in general.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But there's always more
than cat. There's always more than one way to skin a cat.
Yes. And so one way, you just have to find the way that works best for you. And if what you're working with doesn't work, try something else. Yes.
And which a lot of times we'll brainstorm on, you guys will come in and ask us a question. I'm like, well, I would do this. What would you do?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because I don't think my answer's right, but that maybe my answer's not right for you.
Right.
And that's, because there's more than one way to do things. It's always good to get, and that's where, it's great working somewhere where you can get multiple.
Yeah, you can bounce your
what
ideas.
would you do? Because I tried this and I didn't like how this worked out.
Right.
So then I tried this and that was a little better, but hey, what have you tried? And those kinds of things. So, having friends to bounce things off of is always a great idea. And, we're that kind of friend. So,
come in, spend your money.
Come on in and,
maybe we'll buy something too.
Maybe we can buy something new too, because hey, we haven't tried that one yet.
That's right.
That's what it's all about, is being able to have that camaraderie and bounce those things off and learn different things too. So the main point though, never do that.
Yes.
Very, very bad.
Bad.
Because I pretty much guarantee when you go to do this, you're going to look at it and go, it looked so good before I did that. It was perfect. And then all of a sudden it pounces and you got little ripples around. Yep. And as we said, this is the anti-aging.
It's the anti-aging.
Anti-aging. Yeah, we're not doing that. So we don't want to do that. And that is how you can prevent that from happening.
Yes.
The thing that you can do with your hoops, once you get your screw positioned right, so that was a good screw set, take that back off and then rehoop. Because once we've got it positioned right and we have the right tightness, then we can get a better hooping as well. So then you can line up your lines better. And then when you are smoothing everything out before you actually get them in there, it's going to be a better, then you're not fighting with the screw in addition to all of those other pieces.
The pros call that pre-tensioning your hoop screw.
Good name for that. So get the position, get it tightened, and then pop it out and rehoop.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because when it's really loose, the fabric's going to go in really loose.
Right.
So even when you tighten it, it's just going to
and then it pinches, and then it's not good either. So you always want to pop once you get it in the right spot. And if you're doing the same thing over and over again, obviously you don't have to keep popping it out and redoing it, because you're going to be, if you're doing 20 of the same shirt, one pretension is going to work.
Yeah.
So just a little tip on that one.
Yes.
All right. So
we've discussed
in and out of how you do this type of an attachment, and it doesn't matter whether it's the male or the female, you're still going to do those the same way. You're going to rock it in, rock it out, and then you'll be really happy.
You'll be doing the rock and robin.
Rock and robin. Tweet, lady. All right. So that is how those work. These guys here are once you get into a 6x10 machine or up. And they are all interchangeable. So if you have multiple machines, or if you bought extras and then you upgrade, they will all interchange from here on out. Unless you have multi-needle. Those are a different ball of wax, but that's a whole nother ball of wax.
Yes.
So
and then this style comes, some of the hoops have these fancy stickers on them and some of them do not. So if you purchase a hoop and it has stickers on it and your machine doesn't need it, it doesn't matter.
Nope.
But some hoops will come like this. Some hoops will come like this without that information. There's just a few machines in the lineup that use these for sizing purposes. So you can just completely ignore that unless you have a machine.
So basically, our concept of thought here was that we are only ordering. There's 4 hoops that come with the stickers, and those 4 we're only ordering them with stickers, so that we can accidentally sell somebody one that needs a sticker, one without a sticker. That was for our benefit.
Yes. So and then we don't have to.
Then we don't have that mistake. Do you need a sticker or do you not need a sticker? And that way there's no mistakes made. So they're the same price for you guys, one way or the other.
Yep.
And that way, if you need a sticker, you have it if it's available to you. If you don't need them, just ignore it.
Yep.
Don't bother picking them off. They're not in the way for anything. Just leave them alone.
Yeah, you might upgrade to something.
You just never know
that you need it to.
There you go. But they are the same. So you also notice maybe that the screw has a little bit of an angle there. That is actually a little bit easier to adjust the screw.
Yeah. Because you can kind of pull it up and get access to it.
It lifts up and down as well.
So it's
a
not
little bit
broken.
No,
that's
not broken.
Like that.
However, speaking of broken, if you break that because you tightened it too hard or those kinds of things, the guys can generally fix that, but they need you to bring them all of the parts. And we do, unfortunately, have people that break them. If you break the plastic parts of the hoop here, unfortunately, we can't fix that. But if the screw itself, if your screws are loose, if it's these screws that are loose, we can help you fix that. If these ones are loose, maybe not. We'll sell you a new machine. We can get you a new machine that'll help calm the stress of your life and maybe help those screws get tightened back up. But that's all we got for you on that one. So depending upon these hoops, some of them have some grips on the side. You'll see that there's a little bit of a grip here. Once you get in the bigger hoops, they start supporting the sides a little bit differently than the smaller ones. And then some of them also have a notch at the top there. I think you can see that a little bit on the white there. So there's a little notch. One thing that a lot of people forget, I think they know it, but they don't necessarily remember or think that it matters. These ones with the notches definitely matter because that notch won't go together in the wrong way. But you can see that there are arrows that are printed, and that is the top. And so the arrows,
they should kiss each other.
They should be kissing,
like
exactly. Kiss, kiss. So the arrow should be pointing, and that tells you which direction the inner hoop should be going. Is it going to work if you don't do that on something like this? Yes. On something like this one, you're going to fight with it because of that notch. It will definitely give you a hard time. So just make sure that you know which way is up, and that's what those arrows are going to tell you. The arrows will always be at the top of the hoop.
And again, that's not it's not just a Brother or Baby Lock branded thing. Most hoop manufacturers have arrows, whether they're at the top or the bottom, but they do have arrows that match. And
to tell you which direction is up or down or whatever.
Yeah, because like she said, it does matter sometimes how it goes in the hoop, but sometimes it really matters for these pieces. To getting your center part.
So if you want to set that in there for a second. So on these, we have people that ask this all of the time, like, you know, I tried putting this hoop in my machine and it wouldn't let me use it, or it says that it's too small because it won't fit in this hoop, but I know that it does, so on and so forth. If you notice, there are notches on this slide and there's less notches on this slide. Those notches are specific to the size of the hoop, and your machine knows what hoop you are sliding into it based on the spacing and the number and whatnot of those notches. So each slide is specific to that. And when you purchase one of these, and we didn't bring a 5x7 over here, but this is the 5x7 slide.
Is that 5x7?
Where does this come from? Did you just take this out of a box?
I did.
That's really interesting. So you can see that the slides are different based on the size of the hoops. So those slides will match based on all of those different hoops that you have. And so the machine will definitely recognize. Some people have, well, how does the machine know what I've got in there? There it does. And then it knows how far over it can be stitching and so on and so forth. So that is how it knows. There's a little measurement feature in there. There's a little guide inside of your embroidery arm when you slide that in.
Here's the, I think this is the regular 5x7, which is slightly different than than that 5x7, just as an FYI.
Okay, so this is the magnetic one. That's it, and it knows that. That makes so much more sense. So,
So the thing with hoops, right? So Lisa was saying that you put it in the machine and the machine is like, oh, it doesn't fit, and you have like this gargantuan hoop on, and your design is
4x4.
Is 4x4. So the thing about it is that when you bring up a design in your sewing machine, everybody's sewing machines, they center that design. And so it automatically goes into the center of the design. And if you have this big workspace, you have this giant workspace, right? What people do is they're like, well, I want to use less of my hoop because it's a small design. So what they do is they take that design and they move it to the bottom of their workspace. So essentially what they did is, if this is my 4x4 hoop and this is my workspace, if I take this 4-inch design and I move it to the bottom, I have moved it outside of this hoop, which is why it tells you, hey,
it no longer fits in that workspace.
So when it's telling you that the design is too big for the hoop, and you know that it is not the design itself, what it's really telling you is, hey, the design is outside of your 4x4 hoopable area. And you need to move it back towards the center of the hoop.
So we all have that move box, and it's got 9 squares. That center one is just a dot. If you tap that dot, your design will go right back to center and magically will fit now again in your 4x4 hoop. It's just a crazy thing.
It is. But you won't be the first person to do it. But
guaranteed not.
That is typically what happens. If your design really is in the center and you are getting that message, there could be something wrong with the embroidery
piece
arm
in there that measures. So where I was saying, well, this looks slightly different, and it is just a hair different here. We actually had a customer that ordered I can't remember which magnetic hoop, but there was a magnetic hoop that they ordered, and for whatever they did, they attached the wrong slide to it. So as far as the machine knew, it was a 5x7 hoop, but it was actually a 6x10 hoop, something like that. Okay. So she kept putting it in, and she'd put in this design, and it would say, nope, it doesn't fit. And she's like, but it does. I don't get it. Yeah. I mean, over and over. And so she brought it in here, and she's like, okay, here's my hoop and here's my stick. I'm confused, and she was like, here, you do it. And so we put it on one of our machines. I plugged her hoop in that she brought me, and I plugged her design in, and darned if it didn't say that on all. I tried it on like 3 different machines. I'm like, okay. So I looked at it and I went, that doesn't look right. And so I went and I found another, whichever hoop that it was, and I held up the notches, and the notches didn't match. So I called Diamond. I got her a new hoop, which in theory wasn't that big of a deal, except that she literally thought she was going crazy. So unfortunately, those things,
it does happen.
It can happen, but that is what will happen, is the machine will tell you it doesn't fit in that hoop. So it's very rare for that actually to not for that to be the reason. But you can have weird things like that happen. But I had a really good point. I don't remember what it was now. It'll come back.
You can always look at this to see, but if it's not recognizing it in the hoop, we're not saying that there's never anything wrong.
No,
we're just saying that make sure your design is centered first.
The poor lady, I was like, well, did you do this? Did you do this? I did the same thing on the phone as what we always go through, and all of those questions and things, because normally that fixes the problem. I know what it was. Here we go. It just took a second. The most common thing that we get with this is your 4x4 hoop is that it doesn't measure 4x4.
Yeah.
So
there's a ruler.
Well, there's a grid right underneath of it.
This is a 1-inch grid.
So if we are looking at the interior of this grid, of this hoop, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. But that embroiderable area inside that is only 4x4. It's actually only 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. So when you are, a lot of you have called and said, well, I've got my
weirdly shaped size.
I've got this hoop and it won't, it's going to fit this because I measured it and it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So,
yeah. So, put this in that 5x7 hoop. That's a good way of showing. So here is the 5x7 hoop, and this is the template. So when we have the template inside the hoop, get it in the hoop.
It's close.
Sarah.
It's actually for that other 5x7, but it's close enough.
So when we have it in here, you can see there's all kinds of space. Let's stick it underneath
I was
something.
looking for some white fabric or something.
There's a white piece of stabilizer. There we go. So the purple grid part is the embroiderable field of this particular hoop. So you can see you've got all of this dead space at the bottom and all of this dead space at the top, and then not
Just
as much.
a little bit on the sides.
Right. And that's because of how the embroidery foot needs to move around inside your hoop.
Yep.
So this is the field that the machine can embroider. This, of course, is the size hoop that we need to do that. So it can be a little bit deceiving.
It can be deceiving and a little confusing. When we say, well, grab your 5x7 hoop, we mean that one, even though it's not actually measuring to 5 inches by 7 inch, that one over there is actually much closer because it's, 5 by 6. In that, the 4x4 embroiderable field hoop measures much closer to a 5x7 actual measurement with your ruler.
Yeah.
So it can be very confusing when you're at home and we're talking to you on the phone. Well, what size hoop do you have? And you get your ruler out and you go, well, it's
this big.
It's this by this big. And we're like, yeah, but that's not what we're talking about. There is no 4x6 hoop. And but I have one. Where'd you get it? It came with my machine.
Yep.
Can you tell we've had this conversation more than once?
More than once.
So the embroiderable field is definitely going to be different than the measurement of the hoop. And if your hoops came with those grids there, it definitely will help you visualize a little bit easier what's actually going to work for that.
Yeah. So
clear as mud.
Clear as mud. Let's talk a little bit about magnetic hoops. We're coming close to our hour here already. Wow, it just goes by so quick.
Let's
so
some more stuff in there.
Yesterday I was on Facebook and I saw somebody ask in a Kimberbell group, what should I get for an embroidery? What size hoop should I get? And just because you read it on the internet doesn't mean it's true.
Doesn't.
So, I actually watched some person say in there, don't buy one of these because it will fry the electronics in your machine. And then someone else said that the motor will die because the hoop is too heavy. So I just want to put this out there now that it's on the internet. That's false. And you can use these.
Absolutely.
And no brand of machine that's out there right now that Dime makes hoops for. They wouldn't make the hoop
They wouldn't make the hoop if you couldn't use it.
If it wasn't safe to use. So, like you probably can't hear it, but there's little itty bitty magnets in here. And when you shake it, you can hear them.
You can hear them moving a little bit.
So if for some reason, here's my little pro tip: it stops working, like the magnets aren't working really well. Dime's going to tell you to slam your hoop down a couple of times to reposition the little guys inside to see if it starts working again. So there's your little tip. But it's not super heavy. It's heavy, but it's not super
light,
heavy.
But it's not holy crap.
But we have some batting and some fabric in here, and I'm just gonna kind of so you can see it really does slap down pretty good.
How's your fingers?
Because there's batting in here, it's not so bad. But that's the reason they give you this this little guy
right on here. Pinch hazard. Watch fingers and hands when opening and closing frame to avoid injury. Slide frame apart. It hurts if you pinch your finger.
It does. But what I want to talk about, so the reason that I love these is because we talked about like fabric distortion and things like that. Because this is flat, if I grab both ends of my fabric and I gently tug on both of these pieces, I'm really not distorting the grain of my fabric.
Because there's no...
Right, because it's completely flat underneath here. So there's nothing to ripple and cause all kinds of havoc.
So I use this every time I'm doing any quilting. I am in a magnetic hoop.
Yep.
Because I can get that on there and then oh crap, I need to move over a 1/4 inch. I pick up an edge, I tug it, boom, I lay it back down, and I can get exactly where I need to go, and I don't have to worry about the tug factor.
Absolutely.
And I certainly don't have to worry about rehooping.
Right. So
you use them for all kinds of things.
I would say that 75%, maybe closer to 80% of everything that I do is done in a magnetic hoop. And it's in there. Like it's not going.
I mean, you can literally...
Right. It's not going anywhere. And that's through batting and all kinds of stuff. So I don't worry about sliding it on and off my machine and having it release. As long as you are paying attention, you really have to give...
You want to slide it in and out from here.
That's right.
You don't want to pull from here.
Because if I push and pull from here...
You can dislodge.
You will dislodge your fabric. Yes. Right. It might not happen on the first time, but it will definitely
you do
happen.
It repeatedly, you're messing it up.
And the thing is that in a normal hoop, we have guides so that we know where our hoop is supposed to start and stop. You don't have that on a magnetic hoop, which means I can have this in the wrong place. So it's not remotely close, right?
Right.
If I wasn't paying attention, my machine would stitch right through there. So it's super important that if you are going to use these hoops, that you do learn to use them correctly. And really the easiest way to make sure that you're lined up is I'm literally just moving them like so, just to make sure that I have everything where I need it to be.
And you can feel quite a bit as well.
You really want to make sure that
you've got right on there and feel it.
Your corner pieces lined
like,
up.
I don't know about you, but when I'm doing quilting and I have like a whole piece, so like when I've done the Kimberbell and I'm doing one square after another, I lift this up. I don't even take it out of my machine.
Unless I have to change my bobbin, yeah.
Right. I lift up the piece and then I yank it and I set it back down. So I don't know. I just do this to make sure I'm lined up because I'm not outside of my machine.
Yeah. So again, Lisa, you can feel that you're in the place. And if you aren't comfortable feeling, like if you have like a small ruler, that is obviously too big. But if you had something a little bit smaller than that, you can kind of
push it up,
butt that up just to make sure that you've got
like one of those add a quarters or something like that.
Exactly. Just something to make sure that you've got your corners where you want them to be and use them. So, the question is always, what size do I want to use? Well, the question is, first of all, you want the biggest one that you can possibly get. Because
number one,
if you're going to just have one, get the largest one, because if you want to do any type of quilting in your hoop, this is going to be a game changer for you. It will save lots of heartache. And the only time that this isn't going to work for you is, unfortunately, if you have there's a couple new machines that use that special that use this sticker. So if you want to be able to use like
to take a picture,
if you want to be able to take a picture and you have a machine that uses these special pieces right here, unfortunately that won't work for the aftermarket hoops. They have not decided to come out with these stickers for you. But if you're not using the camera feature,
right,
and you're just,
if you want to use the camera feature,
yes,
then that will work.
Everyone else and for every other purpose,
just go with it.
You can do this.
Just keep going.
And you can just make sure that you've got everything all set up. So get the biggest one that your machine can use. And then
5x7 would be my number 2.
Yeah, so 5x7 or 6x10. And so you can kind of judge based on that. So the 6x10 hoop, like if you turn your stuff sideways, you can do like a towel and lots of little things. So it's not substantially much bigger than this space here. So 6x10 or 5x7. I wouldn't get a 4x4. That's just kind of a waste.
Agreed.
You know, you're not using that much more, and especially when it's flat like this, that much more fabric or stabilizer between a 4x4, unless maybe you were doing baby onesies. Then a 4x4 might.
Yeah,
be.
But you know, you're not talking like it's $50. You know, so I mean, you're going to have a substantial amount of.
But let's be clear. If you have ever sewn on any other brand, this is like pocket change. So
true statement.
I came from a brand where if I sneezed at my 4x4 hoop, it was $300 or $400. So these being under $200 still feels like a deal to me. If you always have been a Brother and Baby Lock person, then you might feel like the $150 to $200 price tag is a large price tag. Perspective is everything. But you will save yourself a lot of heartache. And if you have you've got
weak or hand pain,
yes, wrist,
with trying to get everything in the hoop, this is definitely
it's a nice
relief from that.
Yeah, it definitely will save your you from really pushing in or out. And so Dime has had these for a very, very long time.
And they have made, I don't know what year it was when they made the improvement over the magnet, but it was a long time ago. And they've been at this because it works.
Yeah, for a very long time. And so there are aftermarket hoops on the market.
Sure.
Don't get them. They are not the same, and they don't have the same quality. So this one is a great option. Now, Brother and Baby Lock have started to make their own magnetic hoops.
So there's this little plastic thing that comes with it. You want to keep that for storing, because you don't want to store the magnet directly on the metal because it's that good of a magnet.
If your cat, I store mine like this because upside down. It sticks just a little bit because the cat chewed the corner of one of mine and it was grody. So
well, there is that possibility, but that's what that is for. And it's also a nice little carry, and it'll hang somewhere if you need it to hang somewhere. So this is the newest from Brother and Baby Lock. So new, we still have the cardboard in it.
Yes.
So this is similar in that it's nice and thin, so it's flat. The difference is, as you can see, there's multiple magnet pieces instead of the one. I'm going the wrong way. All right, so when you put your piece down, you can use your center. You can kind of visually, so center here, there's arrows. I can get that right on the money. And then I can use that same line to get myself in position. And then there's larger pieces for the top and the bottom. So the arrow, you're going to smooth and lock everything in place. So that's the difference. You want to go?
Yep. So again, because we're not stretching, but we are smoothing, and then you're going to lock that in place.
So, and then you're going to do the same thing for each of the sides. So I used the mat in this case to make sure that I was where I wanted to be.
Don't put them together. It's a tiny magnet, but it's very powerful.
And then
good job.
So very smooth. There's no ripples anywhere in there. And it is, again, very smooth. This one's very light. The other one that they came out with is only for the Luminaire. This one is available for the 6x10 machine, new 6x10 machines and up. So I think they've got all of the updates out.
You will need to do an update for your machine. This mechanism here
is that different. It needs to know how to read this.
Yeah.
So you would need to do an update. But this is that new one. So again, how hard was that?
Yeah, it's really easy. So the main thing is this is really easy to do, but it does come with an. I feel like this one's a little.
The magnet remover.
Well, it doesn't come with the magnet.
No, that was the other one.
That was the big one, but it does come with a heftier price tag. It's
does.
Worth it because it is very lightweight, so it won't hurt you.
It's not going to ride on the bed of the machine rough at all. It's because this is literally
super light.
It's super, super light.
But it does come with a hefty price tag. I think the MSRP is like $4.99.
It's $4.99. Sale regular price, map price, which is the advertised price, is $2.99. We're a little below that.
Yeah.
We had said we were going to bump it to the regular price come January. I don't know if we haven't quite done that yet. So we can't say it. Can we say it on this?
I think we could say that it's $25 less than
that. We're still $25 less.
We didn't say it.
I mean, if you guys can do the math, then you can figure that out, and you deserve the little bit of a $25 discount. So there you go.
Do you have to do updates for the other No, you do not, because they are aftermarket, and so the hooping mechanism
are the
here
same.
Would be the same, so that your machine thinks that it's the
standard
hoop. So no, you do not have to do any updates for the dime hoops, only for the brother or baby lock version.
Yep. What she said.
Yes.
Yeah. The only reason you need one is because of this.
Because that's
this little thing is different. It doesn't recognize this unless you've done an update.
And so they are rolling out updates for these magnetic hoops. It's a slightly different version, so not exactly this, but our multi-needle machines are getting some 4x4 and 5x7s, and they're rolling out those.
I know that they've gotten back to like the 1,000, the 10 needles down to the 1,000s.
Yeah,
I know they've gotten that far.
And I think they did the older 6 needle one.
I think so.
Yeah, not too long ago. So anyways, if you buy one and your machine's not recognizing the hoop, it's probably
because
just made an update. The update is there. And if you are having trouble doing that update, we can certainly help you.
Absolutely.
The brother website or the Baby Lock website, there is a PDF file. It does walk you through it. It's pretty simple. But of course, if you are bringing your machine in for its annual service,
we can do that
we
for
will
you.
Make sure that they get Tony's been updating them. He usually does anyways, but we've been updating those as they're coming in. So
sure enough,
yeah. So we
hopefully that has helped with some of the questions that you might have had with hoops. What's available, what's on your dream list. We actually do have a decent number of the diamagnetic hoops in stock.
Yeah, we got to ship.
We do have a nice chunk of the standard hoops in stock, though we did get quite a few Christmas gifts purchased. So there have been a few that have gone back out, and we've got a couple of these too. So hopefully that helped. If you do have any other questions, you guys know where to find us. And hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next week, and we'll probably do serging next week.
Yes,
we'll see. So you guys have a great one. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.